Hola.
Okay, for those of you who are new to Keller Williams and new to your roles, this week we're talking about Shift, which is Gary Keller's book that goes along with how to adapt to a changing market. So you know what we're talking about as we start to talk through this.
And while we discuss this, we do not have a topic for next week. So I want everyone to start thinking at the end when we ask you for topics, what are some things we could cover? But that's for the end after we discuss Shift.
Okay, so I know a lot of you are reading this book with your teams. What are your takeaways? What do you have to share with the group? It's not a very good book if you guys have nothing to share and you're talking about it as a team.
Yeah, we just talk about getting in front of it. So having conversations on what like pricing is going to look like, talking about like cutting costs, expenses, like going through and actually doing the things in the book before we actually hit our shift in our market. So that's kind of what we've been talking about at our book club meetings. Like, what can we do right now? What are some things we can talk about with our clients? Things like that. So.
Yeah. And I love that, Abby. It's staying ahead of the market because some of us haven't felt anything yet.
And look for clues. Be on the lookout every week. Price reductions happening in your area, anything that you could add value for your sellers and clients, buyers, anything. Each week study what's happening.
Yep, watching for those micro changes. And they might even be different area to area. I know in Denver, one of our subdivisions south of here is feeling it. Like we don't feel it anywhere else. We're totally feeling it in that one location.
Yeah, we've been keeping a spreadsheet since, before we started reading Shift that, and I think this spreadsheet is called Shifting Markets or something along those lines. It's definitely inspired from this, checking our, like what's for sale and just basically running from our MLS, everything that's going on. And one of the things we talked about, because I had just started in real estate and just started a few weeks ago, but they already have plans that are set in place from when COVID happened and already have kind of when we see shifts, here's some things we did the first time, here's some things we did in the past, and here's the things we're going to start preparing and start doing well in advance. So we're already getting that kind of together, and it's cool to kind of build that again for them now, shifting instead of a worldwide pandemic, just the actual market shifting itself. So getting ahead of those plans.
Yep. And great point. A lot of us went through this activity because when COVID hit, we didn't know what was going to happen. So we were all preparing for the worst. And it ended up being the best.
I always thought this book, even if you're not going through a shift or whether we have a shift or not, I always thought it was a great business checkup because you have the MREA that kind of runs through all the models, right, and lays out best practices. So some of us are a little bit different from the best practice. Some of us are right on, but it just lays out the foundation. And I think Shift is a good way to look at the tactics and go, let's do an audit of our business and just run through and see where we're at. And it really, I love it for that purpose because I think it works well, right? Just to go through it and look at, okay, how are we doing on leverage, right? Where are we doing with remargining our business? Are we still profitable in the ways we want? How do we bulletproof the transaction? Do we still bulletproof the transaction, right? Or in the midst of the chaos, are we under leverage and now we don't have bulletproof transactions? They're kind of all over the place. So I want you to think about this book too. If you haven't ever read it and you're going through it, I really like it from a perspective of just a business checkup and where are you at in each one of those tactics.
And again, if you're new to real estate, going through those tactics gives you a deeper insight into the industry. into how we run our businesses. Any other takeaways or ahas as you guys have been breaking these down with your team?
I'll say we're brand.
Please begin
started.
scanning.
Oh, wait a minute. Cassie, there you go.
Like, okay. We just started reading it. I'm only through the introduction, that whole portion, but I took away from that, like, I love the six things that you must do to generate business, or the 6 steps. So lead gen, buyer and seller representation agreements, show buyers and sellers, market their properties, write and negotiate contracts, coordinate sales to close, and then look at your P&L statement, kind of how it lays it out like that. And I actually took that and set like standards for each of those. So we don't really have the best standards right now on our team. So for our agents, I said, okay, lead gen is a standard. So this is how we track it. This has to be done this time of day by Friday at noon every single week. If it's not done, then we're going to have a meeting about that. With that, appointments and getting buyers rep, you need to get this many appointments, this many buyers rep per month. And then, how many people under contract. And I actually went through each of those 6 steps, except for the last one about the looking at your P&L, because they're not really involved in that. But I actually set standards for all of the team members based on those 6 things. And then are sharing that with them. Like, this is we need to start at the basics and make sure everyone knows where they are, especially in a shifting market, and what they should be doing and focusing on day to day.
That's awesome, Cassie.
Can I ask a question? Did you set one standard for each agent individually, or for every agent as a whole?
Every agent as a whole. The only difference is we have a couple part-time agents. So I set a different standard for part-time than full-time, but all of our agents are roughly new. We don't really have anyone that's been around more than a year and a half. So I just set the same standard for all of them.
So can you go through what they are so we can understand a little better? Like,
sure.
How many appointments?
They're not 100% finalized, but I'll go through them. So the first one with lead gen, capture and convert leads to appointments. So they must fill out the reporting sheet, which is a sheet that I created, by Friday of each week. We will review and go over that at our team meetings on Monday, the following week. And within that, they must schedule a minimum of 8 appointments per month. That's minimum. That's only 1 a week. So 2 a week. So that's not much. And then they must have kept a minimum of 4 appointments per month. Then the second is buyer and seller representation agreements signed. Must have a minimum of 2 buyer and seller reps signed per month. Third is show buyers and sellers, and show buyers and market sellers. I didn't set a standard for that. 4, write and negotiate contracts. Must write and negotiate a minimum of 16 deals per year to remain on the team. This to be talked about quarterly and reevaluated yearly. And then part-time agents must hit a minimum of 8 deals per year. And then the 5th is coordinate sales to close. Must close a minimum of 10 deals, we changed it, 12 deals per year to remain on the team, because sometimes, those contracts fall through. And part-time agents must close a minimum of 6 deals per year to remain. And that's kind of just like our way to check to, like, if they're falling through or they're not hitting those, why? And if they're going way above that, then we need to change their standard. They can hit more than that. Right now, we don't have a standard to stay on the team or even talk about not staying on the team. So I wanted to, let's go back to the basics and actually set these standards so that they aren't just a part of our team, but not really showing their full potential or giving their full effort, whatever it might be.
Thank you.
Mhm. Sure, I can share it. It's pretty basic. I can share it with you.
So what else are people coming away with from reading Shift? Who has the book in front of them right now? Quite a few of us. Okay. What do you guys think about diving into Tactic 6?
I'm ready, Paula. We're freaking ready. over here.
I am teeing it up for you, Megan.
Let's do it. So while Megan's getting prepared, ready to jump right in there, one of the things we looked at with book clubs, we want to make sure you all walk away with how do you implement this, right? And what are the tools you can implement in each book? So instead of doing a review, we're going to start deep diving in on portions, sections of the book to where we feel you can really apply it to your current situation in business outside of that. And then also provide any tools that KW have that tie into it so it can support you and help you, which is what's leading us out of Shift. We love getting your takeaways. And then we're going to deep dive into Tactic 6. Megan, tell us about Tactic 6 in Shift.
Book club, y'all, the best time of the month. So yes, you know, I was telling a lot of my clients this week, like, in case you don't know, Gary Keller is coming in hot around Tactic 6. And so if your rainmakers are going to any of these Gary Keller exclusive masterminds, right, they're going to be coming back having had an awful lot of conversation about internet lead conversion. And so, you know, one of the things that your coaches here were discussing about Shift when we were getting ready for this conversation today was, let's make sure our DOOs are prepared to meet that conversation and understand like where the rainmaker is flying in from when they seal into your office and say, we need better lead conversion off the internet, and then leave. So that is because it's coming straight out of Gary Keller for the moment. And here's what I would say to set the groundwork for this discussion around Tactic 6 is, a lot of people are saying, yes, but Megan, we're a database business. You always told us be a database business. 70% of our business comes from the database. And I'm like, nailing it, high fives all around. Where's the other 30% coming from? And when our database, you know, motivated people in our database begins to shrink, how are we prepared to go find other motivated parties? It's not like out of the entire universe, the only motivated people to buy or sell are in our database. So it is important that we are making sure we're hedging our database with something else, and or we may be missing 20-30% of the business available to us if we followed even the 80-20 like principle, right? 80% of our business coming from the database. Well, the other 20%'s got to come from somewhere. So Gary Keller himself sets up on page 108. I don't know if you've got the bound version, it's page 108, but it's the very end of Tactic 5, where he says, be a lead converter. And then he goes into the internet lead conversion. And he says this, I think Christine's on this call. We were having this conversation today. Lead conversion off of the internet is one of the highest level skill sets your agents will need to acquire. Listen to that again. Lead conversion for leads off the internet is one of the highest level skill sets your agents will need to acquire. And he talks about that a little bit on page 108. What does that mean? It means, well, it's easier to convert a lead your mom gave you when she told her coworker how amazing you are, and like your agents don't have to work that hard to step into that and get some paperwork signed. But when it's somebody off the internet who does not know your agent, they need a higher level of skill to be able to convert these people at a higher level. That's how he sets up for us Tactic 6. Then we jump right in. You know, before we can even talk about lead conversion off the internet, there is some warrant for a conversation around lead generation off the internet. So there's about 1 million, this is a big web. So who is in here generating some leads off the internet, and how do you get them? Just like shout it out.
Instagram.
Facebook ads, Instagram ads,
Google certified.
website.
Google certified.
our website, home valuation.
We've heard quite a few. Any others in the room? Any others in the house? That's a lot. So you've got a lot of choices. We got social channels. We've got pay-per-click, Google search engine channels. We've got our own website, pushing people into our own website through online and probably offline channels. Amanda, you look like you're about to say something. You're just adjusting your computer. Okay, so we've got a lot of different channels that our leads are coming into us. You know, one thing that I didn't really hear anybody say, although kind of Janet hinted at it, is, you know, our website. First couple pages of Tactic 6 talk about how internet leads are sometimes come from offline. Interesting. What do you mean? Well, we should be having some calls to action that push people to our internet funnels that are maybe not online. So those could be happening at events. Those could be happening on our brochures. Those could be happening on our sign writers, right? We've all seen like text this to whatever. So we can be pushing people into our internet lead funnel, even from offline sources. And some of the most successful internet lead gen campaigns, actually the lead comes from not online. And we push them into online because we are all internet consumers. This is not the 1990s, like we all use the internet. So we can funnel them into our online engine.
Open houses would be another example of that, just so everyone knows, right? If you're advertising those, that's another form of that.
So true, especially in the pandemic. Like Zach led the charge for turning open houses into a huge online lead generation funnel by setting up an Eventbrite and like actually getting them like registered through that. So there's all these different kinds of ways that we can collect data. So let's be clear. What do we need our online presence to do for us? Because here's another thing I sometimes hear people, and maybe some of you guys have been guilty, maybe we have some guilty rainmakers, but sometimes we say, hey, I've got a great idea. My team did this. Let's hire a marketing specialist for brand image. And we're going to pay a lot of money. How will we know it worked? Well, we'll have a brand image. Like, okay, well, that doesn't mean anything. And you're like, but there are plenty of people who will sell that to you for a lot of money. So let's get specific. When we say online lead generation, what we're really looking for is we have something the consumer wants. They have something we want. How do we exchange that information? So when we say lead generation, we're talking about contact information. I need a name and I need some contact information. And the truth is, you don't even need a name. Like, how many of you have sold a house to somebody that came into your world as Mickey Mouse or FU for some of our more colorful clients, right? But they gave you a real email address and you sold them a house. So you just need contact information. What you have to offer is data. It's whatever it is you guys can package up into an offer in exchange for contact information. That's
so it's not to find what's going on in your local neighborhood for the weekend.
Zach gets real passionate about this topic, y'all. He's like, quit sending people to the local restaurant.
Yeah, that is great that Awesome and Awesome's ice cream is doing well. And how many leads did we capture, right? The other thing I wanted to point out, because I thought what Megan said was brilliant, is she mentioned how you want to capture that name and email from there. You don't know how many times, and I've even heard Jason Abrams say this, if you go to your archived leads who you said were bad, right? Which again, I would say that is claiming that people will never ever buy a house. So there may be maybe some bad numbers and bad emails, then I would consider it bad. That's the only way. Otherwise, we're claiming those folks don't ever want to buy a house. If you go there and search, you would be amazed of how many Mickey Mouses have purchased a house based off their email, and they just gave you a fake name. But it's true, and it happens a lot if you go to your archive.
So true. My team sold so many Mickey Mouse's houses. It was like we were freaking Disney over there. You know, it's like, if they give you contact information, you're still in the game. That's what your internet channels should do for you, whether they're Instagram, whether they're Facebook and people are dropping into your DMs, like whatever it is, all we need is a way to actually get in touch with them. That is the point of internet lead generation. If we are finding the motivated, and I don't know why this is a shift conversation, like maybe I need some coaching from Paula, but I don't know why this is a shift conversation, but if you are finding the motivated, I think that's just like an everyday conversation, and who is motivated is different. That's all. We're still just finding them. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but that's how I perceive that. Paula can coach me later if I'm not on track there. Page 126, if you guys have seen, can look at this, like check this out. Now I will say, you know, people ask me all the time, like, this book is old, is this data still right? I will say that if you look at the line we care the most about on page 126, which is registrations to appointments, you will see that we have average internet conversion rates based on surveys with top agents at 5%. So then I get clients asking me, 5%, I'm not getting that. Okay, we'll read that again. Average internet conversion rates based on surveys with top agents. We started this whole conversation with how this is the most skilled activity your agents will need to know how to do. So I'm so glad you asked, what does NAR say the statistic is for internet lead conversion rates? NAR says it's 1 to 4%. 1 to 4. That's just like, we can't discriminate in NAR data who was good and who was like a new agent and, you know, whatever, but we can make some assumptions, right? So 1 to 4%. Now, is that a lead source issue? Is that a lead conversion issue? The answer is yes to both. So we need to address both of those systematically through our operations department. And we need to make sure that our marketing channels, which lead to internet leads, are both good enough that we can convert them from 1 to 4%, and that our agent talent that's receiving those leads is talented enough to convert them at 4+%. So we're holding our channels accountable to the 1 to 4% minimum. We're holding our skill set accountable to something higher, because we know that the skill can get it when our skills develop. Now, does that mean we're going to hold we're going to fire a new agent if we give them a Facebook pay-per-click or, you know, Instagram lead and they are converting those at 3%? No, we're going to go make sure we develop their skill set so that they can go get 5% out of those leads.
It's why sports teams practice every day, even though I'm pretty sure they know how to hit a baseball, right? And I know I'm not a big football guy, but you know, you got to run down the field, right? There's only so many run plays, pass plays they're going to do. And yet they practice every day. And a lot of times teams will address lead generation first, right? And they'll be like, oh, we just don't do lead generation. We're not consistent. Where the real issue is, we need to address the skill set, which means what are our script practice and role play practice look like? And we're not supposed to say script anymore. So conversation practice in the morning, what does that look like daily before you even talk about sitting down for 2 hours for lead generation? And you will discover that a lot of times will fix the problem.
100%. Most of us here on this call today have plenty of leads. We don't have the skill set to convert them at something higher than 1%. And who here has completed a lead gen model with a baseline reality and an actual goal set for that complete, for all your lead sources, and has that they're running? Anybody here have a working lead gen model? Hannah, I was waiting for somebody to raise their hand. Yeah, okay, I know Hannah does because we worked hours on that. So if you don't have it, here's my question. How do you know if your lead channels are holding to the conversion rate required to hit the goal? Let's say we want 80% of our business to come from the database and 20% to come from somewhere else. And we've identified that somewhere else is Instagram, Facebook, and pay-per-click. How do I know as an operations department how many leads I need to go generate from each of those 3 channels if I don't know what my team converts them at? I don't. So we need working lead gen models, which is an MRA model. We need working lead gen models. If you don't know how to do it, just open up the lead gen model page. Zach, page number?
Yep. So there's a couple pages you're going to want to look at. I'll give you 3. 137 is going to give you your targeted groups. You're going to go to 143, which is going to show you your haven't met and met database funnel. And then you'll go to 189, which will discuss what that met and haven't met conversion rate is, which if you go to the met side is going to tell you that is 16.99%. If you go to the haven't met, it's 2% conversion. Another way to look at that, for every 12 people we know, right? Name, phone number, email address, we have a relationship with them. We're going to get 1 repeat business and 1 referral for every 12 of those, 16.66%. You go to the haven't met side, we're saying for every 50, 1 of those people should be doing a piece of business with us, which would be your 2% conversion.
Which, by the way, we know that seasoned agents can get 5%. So how much energy are you guys spending in improving that conversion rate? What's the point of the lead gen model? Well, you can say, hey, look, we're converting this at 1%. We want to convert it at 3%. Well, what's the GPS needed to go from 1 to 3%? Lead conversion is the most challenging conversation your agents need to be equipped to have when we're talking about internet leads. It's the strongest skill set that they will need to develop. Imagine taking your team from a 1% Facebook lead conversion to a 5% Facebook lead conversion. That not only quantifies your operations income, right? Like talk about a 4x, 10x, depending on your average sales price, 20, 100x return on your salary. It gets you guys through the shift because you don't need more. What we say in a shift, right, is generally the motivated shrink, which means we can't solve all our issues with quantity. We can't just go get more leads as easily as we can convert the ones we have at a higher rate. So focusing on the skill set, the channel matters too. So like if you're keeping track on your lead gen model and you know that your agents currently convert Facebook at 1%, but pay per click at 3%, well, where are you going to go get more of your leads from? The 3% channel, because you have to improve nothing in order to just get that 3%. But you don't know that if you're not running a lead gen model. I'm going to drop you guys just like a template in the chat box here.
Yeah, drop that in there. So there's a couple things important to point out, right? This is why, what Megan is saying is why it's so important that remargin your business tactic and shift does not mean necessarily cut. It may mean taking money from Instagram, right? Let's say we're doing $1,000 and then applying it to Facebook because we're like, hey, our conversion rate on Facebook's like, we're crushing it, right? We're at like 6-7%, Instagram's at 1%. Well, then let's not cut that money. Let's go and put it towards something where we're getting it. If you also heard what Megan was saying, she's mentioned there's 2 major numbers we need to track that quantify the operation. She said that there was a conversion, right, which was once they register to appointment, but she said so you could see if you're profitable in that, your return. So you want to track your expenses, your ROI, return on investment, and you want to track your conversion. So just keep that in mind that those are really the 2 numbers you're going to be really looking at when it comes to a successful lead gen model.
Megan, I had another thought as you were talking. Do our agents understand what the conversion rate is off of internet leads? I don't know how many other people have experienced this, but I've heard over and over, those are bad leads. Those are bad leads. I'm not calling those leads. Those are bad leads. They have a low conversion rate. You have to call a lot of them to find the needle in the haystack. Do they understand that? It's not going to be a one and done.
Yeah, great point. In Shift Tactic 6, they talk about how the average at the time this was written was 18 months for the average internet lead to convert. 18 months for the average means it's the top of the bell curve. So imagine this is a bell curve. 18 months is here. Now you're going to convert some, like your skill set, your agent skill set needs to be such that your team is converting, you know, a few here, a few more here, a few more here, a few more here. They're not going to convert the max number of internet leads until 18 months. Now, the top of my bell curve in my market is closer to 9 to 12. Now, it may not be if we shift, right? But the point is 9 to 12 months is a long time. And then here's the other half of the bell curve. You should still be picking them up 15, 18, 20, 24 months from now. It's a bell curve. So the skill set is in also the ability to see the long play. Like this is a long game. If I start internet lead generation today, I'm not going to maximize those leads until 18 months from now. 18. Am I playing that follow-up game, or am I calling them once, saying I could never get a hold of them and archiving them? Because that's how you end up with a Mickey Mouse in the trash that you could have sold a house to.
100%. And the MRA even outlines that, but we fail to pay attention to it, right? Like a lot of us say we get a lot of leads, but think about this a moment. Just think about your database number and divide it by 500. And that would be how many weeks it could even last if an agent was going to call it. Because most of them will say, I can't make it all the way through. But the reality of it is MREA math would tell you 100 dials, 20 conversations, set an appointment. That's daily. That's 500 people you need to call to get talked to 100 people, 100 real estate conversations to set those 5 appointments. Most of us don't even have enough leads to support that, right? You got 1,000 people in your haven't met database, you're technically only making it 2 weeks if I called through everyone the way I should.
I get so wound up tight about this. Let's come up for air because we got questions. Go for it.
May, I have a question.
Yeah.
So on that lead gen model template that you shared, can you explain what you're indicating by the ratio per each source column?
Oh yeah, ratio is where I get like most of my clients get hung up. You can delete ratio if you don't like to look at it that way, but ratio is just looking at it in ratio instead of a percent. So I always liked ratio because I'm like, oh, that's 30 humans, right? Like 30 humans to 1 outcome versus a 3.33% return. You know?
I see.
Yeah.
So it's basically like if you get 10 leads from social media, you know, so like 25 leads and you make 1 appointment, like 1 face-to-face appointment. Okay.
1 close. In this case, this is the lead gen model would be, in this fake scenario, it'd be 25 leads to get 1 closing. It's the same data as a 2%, right, conversion rate, but I just always liked to see the like I need this many humans, like this many leads, you know.
Gotcha.
Like in the MRA page we referenced there, it's that 12 to 2, right? For every 12, we're getting 2 deals, or the 15.
Yeah, great question though. And if ratios are like not your jam, just go like delete that column and stick with percentages, because it doesn't have to, your brain maybe doesn't like that, which is fine. Can I talk about another, any other questions so far, or thoughts or comments or like excitements? No, I would love to talk about this page. 130 on my bound book. I don't know if it's 135, but it's this one. So oftentimes we will hear an influencer in our industry say, you've got to do X, whatever X is. And we don't always stop to answer, like ask ourselves, does X apply to me? Does X apply to my business? And one area I see this a lot is on this funnel. So in other words, we'll hear an influencer say, forced registration is stupid. We should stop doing that. It's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. And we'll hear another influencer say, if you don't have a forced registration website, you're an idiot. You're not capturing all the business you could. Like, which influencer is correct? Well, the answer is they're both correct. And it depends on what you are capable of handling. So in other words, if you are running a forced registration site and you have a lot of channels leading to it, and you capture 200 leads a month, for instance, but you have 1 agent, and those 200 leads, based on the MIT research, need to be touched 8 to 12 times before you even ever talk to somebody. Now multiply 200 times 12 for 1 agent, and they will be buried in a mountain of work they cannot accomplish. You have given them too many leads in order to, oh, hey, Paul got it, what? You've given them too many leads in order for this to be successful, and you will convert them at like 0.03%, right? Wasting your money, frustrating your agent, high turnover on the agent side, loss of ROI on the income side. Well, if that's your experience, you're thinking forced registration doesn't work. Switch the scenario though. Let's say you have an agent team of 5 agents and your lead generation channels push into a forced registration website that give you 100 leads per month, and your 5 agents are handily, or ISAs, if you've got ISAs, are handily, easily able to accomplish 100 times 8 to 12 touch points for that month. And we convert these people at 5 to 6%. And you think forced registration is the best thing that ever happened to you. You're both right. The question is, who is your team? What resources and time, energy, money do you have? And which one of these should you choose based on that? So in other words, if you got a single agent, you're going for gold. You'll see here, lower percentage of registrations is a higher percentage of appointments. That means less conversations per appointment, but less at bats. So I'm not going to have as many opportunities to convert. I'm going to get maybe 2 leads instead of 200, but those 2 leads are almost like a guaranteed. It's like an in the bag. I'm going to set the appointment. If I've only got 1 agent taking appointments, I'm definitely going open search with drip. If I've got 20 agents taking appointments, I'm definitely going up front. I need the at bats because I have the manpower to convert them. Your conversion rate and strategy has to match your team, like who you are. We can't just go like grab someone at family reunion and like say, I'm doing that. We have to fully understand like who are we and what are we capable of doing so that we maximize our conversion, our spend, and we don't bury our agents in too many leads to handle. It's just frustrated agents and loss of ROI.
Yeah, it's why business planning in October or earlier is so important, because we spend so much time on the economic model, which is only like a quarter to half the battle. The real battle is figuring out what is the plan and budget allocated for our profitable resources and what do we want our business to look like, which is what Megan's talking about, right? What makes sense for us and we can handle it going forward.
Let's pause here for air. Thoughts, comments, excitements, enthusiasms? Yeah.
Yeah. Quick question. So, I mean, yes, I heard similar conversations, like even during the mastermind that was at Nashville. So, I brought this up briefly today in our morning meeting with Paula. So, we have all these standards and expectations that we can set on agents. But what I'm having difficulty is like, implementing it with the agent team. So the part that I discussed with Paula is, there's one aspect, all the agents are 1099 contract employees. So we can't necessarily, have regulations or force them to do anything, it's their own entity. So as like teams, how can we sort of like, other than just getting rid of the agent, what are the ways that we can have the agent accountable to these standards and the expectations that we implement?
Great question.
This is a group question. It's not for the coaches.
Yeah. Who has thoughts?
Well, they're getting a lot of things in return from the team. We're paying all their expenses, marketing and listing prep and recognition from the team, especially if they join a high profitable team. So if they want to be a part of that team, there's certain standards that they must meet to just be on the team and stay on the team. It's kind of sort of a way I look at it. I don't know. I'm probably not saying it the best.
So like the ultimate leverage is like, whether they're going to be the team or not.
Well, they have a lot of,
okay.
like leverage points. Like they have a transaction manager that they get to work with as part of the team.
Right.
They have director of ops that they get to work with. They just have the rainmaker that's probably really successful that they did get to learn and train from. And so that means to me they have to do what we expect and like meet certain standards. So, you know, we have new agents that's just joined our team and they're on a 30, 60, 90 plan and they have to meet certain expectations for the whole first 3 months. So that they'll remain on the team afterwards. And that's kind of like setting the groundwork. Like after the 3 months, it doesn't mean you get to do whatever you want forever. You still have standards you have to meet. It's just a little less than, because now they're done with their training and we hope that they're successful enough to do it without one-on-one hand holding. You know, that's the point of the 30, 60, 90.
Okay. Yeah, makes sense. So like essentially providing them information with how much support they're getting by being part of a team, then running the show as a solo agent, right? Okay. Yeah, because I tried to, you know, I think this is a more of a California related issue because we can't necessarily provide even benefits to our agents because of the state laws that's present them as 1099 contract employees. So I heard in the mastermind that, you know, certain teams are providing like benefits like, you know, 401ks, health insurances and all that. But unfortunately we can't implement that here. So.
When I think, are you focused on the results or are you focused on the behaviors? Right, because the behaviors.
No, I'm more focused on the results because, you know, even for a while, like, you know, we have gathered all these great ideas, but the issue that we come into is, you know, once we start to implement it, you know, it's hard to like for them to be accountable or to be held accountable for the expectations that we're, you know, putting. And usually the pathway has been, you know, the high turnaround, you know, the agents leave because, you know, that's the only, but I don't want that to be the, you know, the only way to have them accountable.
So group, how do we change the behavior?
Exactly. Yeah.
Anyone remember Switch? Our book club Switch? Is this a people problem or a popcorn bucket problem? Anyone want to take a stab at it?
I was thinking of the herd mentality from that book too, which very much could apply.
You guys are the smartest people on the planet. So Zach and I are going to spend less than 60 seconds setting up each concept. And then you guys are going to use those concepts to throw some ideas at the Good Agent team. I'm sorry, I don't know your actual name. It just says the Good Agent team, but what is it?
Yeah, my name is Nishan. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so here's the concept. I'm going to take 30 seconds then Zach. So sometimes people problems are actually just environment problems or pathway problems. If you give a person, two different people, a completely inedible amount of popcorn, and one of them has an inedible amount and one of them has an extremely inedible amount, the person with the extremely inedible amount will still eat more popcorn. It's a popcorn bucket problem. In other words, if we want people to eat less popcorn, we can shrink the bucket and we get the behavior we want. So that's the concept. And then Zach's going to give you the rally the herd. The concept is like, is there a pathway that gets the behavior we want just by shaping the environment? Zach, rally the herd.
Every herd gives off social cues. So if you've ever been in a room where everyone is smiling, shaking hands, and high-fiving, if that's not your thing, you will tend to do that more because the social cue is telling you to fit in. We all should be smiling, shaking hands, and giving high fives. So the question is, what is the social cues in your team telling them to do when a new person comes in or the current agents, right? If we rally the herd, we're changing the social cues so everyone is heading in the same direction.
So now take those concepts and give some practical advice, guys. Go.
We didn't get no hand claps. Like, we did really good.
I mean, 30 seconds or less. I mean, we nailed it. I don't mean to brag.
We like our successes, we like award those types of things on our team. So like we have a sticker chart. It's nothing really exciting, but like at the end of the sticker chart, if we reach our goal, we get a $700 voucher to go anywhere we want to play. So like if everyone's putting stickers on the chart and you're not putting stickers on the chart, like you feel like crap. I don't know how else to explain it. So that's something that we do is like reward role playing, monkey see, monkey do. I mean, there's just a lot of other things that, you know, like the culture and your team. You want to be a team. You're there to be a team. You're a team player. It's kind of some things that we do.
Those are great rally the herd examples, like nailing it. Stickers, like super clear herd example. Like we put stickers on our charts and you don't want to be the one without a sticker. I love that. It's freaking awesome.
We do the same. We have a competition this month and next month for how many appointments you can get, how many of those are kept, how many contracts can you close, and we have this whole chart system, same kind of thing, and there's a prize at the end. And if our rainmaker wins the prize because he's a part of it, he wants to also compete and like kind of say, look what I got this week, can you get it too, kind of thing, to motivate as well. And if he wins, he said he would not win the prize, but instead do something for the team, a team building, or, you know, like take us all out somewhere, do something for us, but it's still a friendly competition.
I think one thing too is we know all of our goals, like we know everyone's goals on the team. So like just being knowledgeable on that and like what motivates them is a huge thing too. So like, you know, if they do set an appointment, you're like, oh my gosh, that's so awesome. You only need 2 more this week. You know what I mean? It's very, and then everyone else just like, oh yeah, okay. Like you only need 1 more, you only need 2 more, like kind of motivating as well. So.
From Switch, that is actually shrink the change. Like people with 2 stamps on their car wash passport were more likely to go back to the car wash when they had been preloaded. So you're saying like, oh my gosh, only 2 left, is shrinking the change for them. And it's also using the, I forget the name of that therapy scale, right? Where you're like, 1 step closer, you're amazing, high five. And you like celebrate their teensy progress in order to make them feel big compared to the challenge still ahead of them. Incredible.
Practically, because time's running out, a tactic I've seen work, right, is what would it look like if everyone did group number entry? Now, the idea would be if you're focusing on the behavior, not the results, you don't focus on the numbers they're telling you, that's for one-on-ones. You could celebrate the wins during that time, right? But what would the behavior change and habit look like if every day at 10:30, we all logged on and said, hey, I made 10 dials, talked to 5 people, set 1 appointment.
Hard to hide when everybody knows what's going on. So we have 5 minutes left. Do we want to talk about a topic for next week, or is there something else that we want to cover today?
Before we talk about a topic, because I don't think we have one, like, what are you taking away? Like, what are you going to take away from this shift conversation and take back into your actual teams?
I'll go first. So since I raised that question, I think all the ideas that, that was brought up they were very helpful. So essentially, like, these are like ways we can, at least I can take back to the team and sort of start implementing where, we boost up the agent accountability and ultimately gain results. So thank you, everybody. Thank you very much.
I'm gonna do the lead gen model template. I feel like we have something very similar. Yeah, but just making it more clear, I think, because we do have an ISA who does do all the Facebook leads and things like that. And she does track it, but it's a little bit different. So I think just making it a little bit more clear.
I want to figure out our ratios, which is why we're setting the standard to make them track. Because right now I have no idea what our agents can convert, and if you don't know, you don't know. Can't do anything with that.
Yeah, I think just on that last point, we track the numbers that our agents do in the meetings and things like that, but we don't really talk about them or celebrate them or kind of do anything with it. And I never really thought about it too much that, but yeah, we need to put that out somewhere. We've got 50 whiteboards in our conference room we can definitely use, and most of them are blank. We can put that up there and start tracking it and talking about it daily.
Awesome.
For me, it's just getting the systems in place to be able to track those things and share those numbers on a regular meeting basis, so that they even know what they're doing and their ROI.
I think that's the same for me. I recently just joined my team and they don't really have a system in place right now. So it's a matter of me creating and building that system right now, and then setting times to actually meet with the team members and agents and go through all of that to create an overall system.
I love the takeaway so much. Yeah, don't get hung up on what's not done. Just look forward to what can be done and then set the benchmark, right? We're just benchmarking for improvements, so then we can make incremental changes and get the results we're looking for.
I'll share one of my takeaways. Thanks for letting me hop on today. I wrote down, particularly related to shift, the motivated shrink, and you need higher conversion rates. That is going to be a big focus.
Yeah, nail that and you got it, right? Like that is it.
Okay, topic for next week. What do you guys want to discuss? What challenges are you having that you'd like the group to solve for you?
I mean, we can dive in another topic or a tactic from Shift. We can go into problem solving. We can go into Millionaire Real Estate Agent, talk about a chapter from there. Your guys' choice.
That's the cool thing about being on the call, is like you get to pick the next thing.
Yeah, I think a tactic would be good, but if we choose a tactic now, that way everybody can have read that one tactic versus putting the whole book out there, and some people are just starting it, and I don't think it necessarily has to go in a certain order. So yeah, what would, for the coaches side, what would you guys recommend being that next tactic that we discuss?
Maybe do more with less.
Do more or less with less would be good too, because we're kind of in that like hiring, like it's been like a struggle to hire right now, like finding talented people. So like, how are people doing more with less?
Very, very straightforward. Or that one, or bulletproof, maybe. But yeah, I think this would be good.
And maybe we could do two in a row. If we do the do more with less would be good. And then Paula, I love your TC masterminds you put on. So maybe bringing some of that to bulletproof the transaction would be good as our next two topics.
Okay.
How exciting.
All right. So you guys know which tactics to read.
3 and 12.
Yep. Thanks
That
for that,
means-
Noah.
Bring real case studies next time so we can have like a real life example. So
Awesome. Thank you, everyone.
See you.
later.
Bye.